keeping it honest.
You are fake news.
Keeping it real.
I want to smoke some pot.
And keeping it libertarian.
I'm a libertarian for life.
These are the Fakertarians.
My superpower is being honest. I'll eat your ass. I will.
And it's time now for the Fakertarians broadcast on this Saturday, July 25th, 2020, featuring LP Chair Joe-Bishop Henchman. And now, here's John Hudak. John?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Fakertarians podcast. I'm John Hudak with Brian Hagan and Jeremy Kantorowicz. Today we have on newly elected chair of the Libertarian Party, Joe-Bishop Henchman. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm having a good time. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, where we just was with Spike Cohen at a Black Lives Matter protest at the Ohio State Capitol. So
nice.
Awesome.
We had Spike Cohen on a few weeks ago. It was a good time.
Yeah.
So first of all, congratulations on your win in the chair election.
Thank you.
Hopefully Dave Smith is okay with you being here because he wasn't so happy about the last chair election participant we had on coming on. But so my first question is a broad one. What's your vision for the LP, and how, if at all, does it differ from how the LP is right now?
I want us winning. We're a political party. Our goal should be to win elections, elect libertarians, and change public policy in a libertarian direction. And it's something I've seen in my career working as a tax public policy think tank person, going out there in the states. I've testified to 36 state legislatures trying to get good public policy passed. And it's really hard without libertarians at the table. And at the same time, even one libertarian at the table can be a game changer. And I'd like to see us make inroads on that. We're 49 years in. It's time we start electing folks.
I agree. So our page, Fakertarians, we're especially intent on calling out alt-righters who are around the liberty movement. Do you think there's a problem at all with alt-righters in the Libertarian Party and the liberty movement? And if so, how do you think it should be handled?
You know, I was a member of the Fakertarians group for about 2 weeks or so, and I just couldn't keep up with it. So you guys got a lot of content and everything. So people do pass along stuff to me when there's stuff that needs to be seen and everything. You know, I've been a libertarian. I've been a member of the party since the 1990s, and I've been around for a long time. And I've seen these waves of interest in different things. You know, some people are always looking for a silver bullet. Man, if only we did this, then everything will be done and we win. After World War II, which was a really dark time for liberty, there was a view that, we just need to write the right book and get the right book into the hands of people, and we'll have liberty. And so we had a lot of books written, and we still didn't achieve nirvana there.
That explains why there's a lot of books from around that time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's, you know, the message I was selling as chair and what I'm going to be trying to implement is there is no silver bullet. It's 1,000 little things that we need to do to build infrastructure, to train people on how to be good campaign treasurers, to learn how to door knock and phone bank, to find good principled candidates, and to help sustain them when they do get elected, build a farm team, run them for higher office, and all of these sustained efforts are how we win. So, you know, I'm not a silver bullet kind of person. I'm not there's millions of people out there waiting for us. If only we stop talking about this issue or that issue. I'm a libertarian, the whole platform, 100%. And that's what we stand for. And I'm excited to help implement some of these as chair.
Okay, so there's been some controversy the last few weeks. There's been some homophobic or transphobic comments coming from libertarians. As an LGBT libertarian yourself, how do you believe the LP and its members should react to that? And how do you think the general climate is in the party? Well,
it was a nice moment of unity. So this guy I'd never heard of, he went, into my Facebook page, dug out a photo of my wedding, which was at Washington National Cathedral. Kind of funny, I'm gay. I have a husband. And but we got married in perhaps what is the most traditional wedding ceremony you could come up with. And there's actually a lot of people who were at my wedding who are like, this is the most traditional wedding I've ever been to, because we had the whole thing, clergy and choir and all that. So anyways, this guy found the photo, which is of the Dean of National Cathedral blessing us, and the two of us, as we're giving our vows to each other. And he posted that and said, I forget exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, if this is the new chair of the Libertarian Party, I'm out. As far as I could tell, every libertarian on Facebook say you're wrong. And you pick your different faction or your different grouping. I mean, they were all represented there. And I'm not much of a fight in the comments kind of person. I did reply to him, and I hope he sees the I hope he understands that we're not gays are not threatening, and that we're part of this world and we're God's creatures too, and all of that. He doesn't seem really receptive to that viewpoint right now, but things can change in time. But it was a nice moment of unity for the whole party, kind of coming together over that, and I think we really needed it after the convention season that we went through, and some of the divisiveness that we've had to endure on that. I've seen the more recent stuff on trans issues, and I'm not a social conservative. I'm like I said, a libertarian through and through. I get that there are some people who are social conservatives, and it comes down to whether they want to. They understand that most libertarians are not social conservatives, and if they're going to understand that and kind of go along with it and try to be persuasive on all of that, and because something we can all get behind is that we believe in self-ownership, we believe in individual freedom, we believe in letting people make decisions for themselves so long as they're not hurting other people. And so as long as you can find common ground on that and are willing to work to elect people and change public policy, you're my friend. I hope we can work together.
So speaking of electing people and changing public policy, do you have any specific goals as chair over the next few years?
Oh, I got a ton. So it ranges from the ambitious stuff, like I want to see us elect state legislators, because that's how we start building the farm team and the experience to elect higher level offices, down to little stuff like showing more respect for our activists and our people on the line. So I'm going to be announcing our first activist of the month in about a week, and we're going to keep doing that monthly for the rest of my tenure as chair, because right now we got a lot of people doing a lot of hard work, pouring their time and treasure and efforts into libertarian, advancing the Libertarian Party, and they don't always get good recognition. I view the main part of my role as removing obstacles out of the way of people trying to implement good ideas and achieve good things. So whenever I go to states, like in Ohio today, I was just chatting with the state chair of Ohio, and I asked the same question: is there anything national can do to help, or is there anything national can stop doing to stop hurting? And I get a lot of different answers. Sometimes I get laughter, which is good, and it means we're in a good place. Sometimes I get, I'm glad you asked that, because this has really been an issue for us, and I'll get an explanation on something. I'd like to really heal a lot of the wounds that we've had from the activities of the past couple months. There's a lot of people who watched the first sitting of the National Convention or the second sitting of the National Convention and came away with bad views of who we are and what we're trying to do. Out of control, not really having our eye on the ball, that kind of stuff. And I want to demonstrate that no, we are working together towards a common purpose. There's stuff that unites us, and we're in this for impact and achievement and solutions and getting stuff done.
Okay. So speaking of the division, there's been some division between caucuses in the party, and there's been some nastiness back and forth, and certain groups have accused you of not being willing to work with them. And what do you have to say to that? And what, if anything, do you think should be done about it? Is there a plan to bridge some of the divide between party caucuses?
I think so. And, I've been pretty open about the direction that I want to see the party go in. And the delegates, I think, leaned into change because of the 25 people on the Libertarian National Committee this term, 12 of them are new. 12 of them were not on the LNC last term. So it's a pretty dramatic change. And there's some individual stories there, but for the most part, the people that didn't make re-election are the people that kind of wanted to keep doing things the way things have always been done. And sometimes there's a time and a place for that, but we're 49 years into being a political party, and it seems like we haven't gotten out of startup mode. So I'm not a big fan of insisting that we keep doing things the way they've always been done. So I've been pretty transparent about some of the initiatives that I want to undertake, about some of the directions I want to go, some of the new focus and the new priorities. And if you're a libertarian who wants to see principled libertarians elected to public office and changing public policy, then let's work together, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. I'm happy to work with them. Happy to work with you in order to do that. And I think there's a lot of room for common ground there. For specific caucuses, I had support across caucuses. That's the only way you can get the majority to get elected chair of the Libertarian Party. I was the endorsed candidate of the Pragmatist Caucus, and that's kind of where my home has been. But I recognize as chair, I got to represent all libertarians. And when I'm wielding the gavel, it's on behalf of all of the members and all over the country and all of the delegates, not just those who are from one narrow group. And believe me, I get plenty of hate mail, because when I was on the LNC for 2 years, I got plenty of hate mail from pragmatists too, in addition to other people for not doing what they thought I should be doing. But it's my job to balance all of that stuff as chair.
Joe, you mentioned holding the gavel. You mentioned it's your job to balance all of that as holding the position of chair. After watching this year's convention, it really proved to me the old adage that trying to bring libertarians together is like wrangling cats. At the next convention, let me suggest, instead of a gavel, maybe you have a spray bottle. So when they get a little bit out of line, you can just kind of bad libertarian kitty, and maybe give them a little spray. Any idea on that?
John Boehner was not a very good Speaker of the House, but he did have a way with words, and he described being Speaker of the House Republican Caucus as trying to keep, I forget what the number was, but trying to keep 218 grasshoppers in a wheelbarrow. That can kind of be some of the issues. Throughout the whole convention stuff, people kept messaging me and be like, "Are you sure you really want to do this?" and all that. And, I appreciate that those questions. To get serious for a second, I think it honestly comes down to people respecting that they're going to be heard. And I've done this on the committees that I've chaired for the Libertarian Party. I've done this as a state chair. And I've done this as board chairs for other organizations, where if people understand, look, you're not going to get railroaded. If you've got something to say, you're going to be heard on it. Can't promise you're going to win, but you can offer your motions, and it'll be fair treatment from the chair on all of that. And you're going to be listened to. Excuse me. That usually takes the edge off a lot of stuff, because as long as people understand the person holding the gavels being fair about how they're running stuff, people tend to calm down a little bit. Where it goes off the rails is if people come in with scripts, or they try to ram stuff through or railroad stuff without debate and all of that, and that's what gets everybody's hair up. Certainly libertarians who have had our share of being railroaded by the two parties, or railroaded by people that just want to push bad stuff through. So I think just a lot of it is having that attitude and showing people that they're going to get fair treatment.
Okay, so there's been some lively debate in libertarian circles about what's going on in Portland with the protests and the feds coming in. What's your take on that whole situation?
This is the plainclothes people. Yeah,
at the protests and the feds coming in and taking people away in vans.
Yeah, no, I'm against extraordinary rendition, whether it happens domestically or internationally. And I always remember the revelation that we had an extraordinary rendition program internationally, where there's that German tourist that was in Macedonia, and the Macedonians turned him over to us, the CIA, and they flew him to who knows where and tortured him until they realized they had the wrong guy. And then they waited another month to figure out what to do with him, and then they just dumped him on a road in Albania. Everybody behind that program should be in jail at minimum. And it's just, to me, it's just amazing that America is doing stuff like this. And then on the Portland stuff, I only know what I read in the papers, but if it sounds, half as bad as what it's being described, that's not stuff that our government should be doing either. And, I don't care what your beliefs are, you get due process rights, you get all the constitutional rights if you get arrested and all of that. And I have to I'd be surprised if there's any libertarian that disagrees with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's crazy to just see that kind of federal power be wielded, and something that's been enabled. The fact that it's possible is just absolutely crazy, and nobody seems to really. I mean, there's a few in Congress that seem to be really concerned, but only when a couple people are concerned in Congress, how far that goes.
Well, this just goes to show why we need libertarians at the table, because libertarians are going to do something about this kind of stuff. We're going to do something about policing gone wild and qualified immunity and all of that. Biden's not going to do anything about any of this stuff. Trump's certainly not going to do anything about it.
Right. I mean, Biden, he seems to want to double down funding and, basically tell cops to just shoot people in the leg and call that call that reform.
Yeah, he wrote the crowd bill back in the day, and it's
right.
You should ask if any of you get the chance to talk to a Democrat. I mean, you should ask them, why is it that you Democrats control basically every city in this country, every government and city government in the country, but you're not able to do anything about police misconduct? It's because they're never going to cross the police unions. They're never going to cross the teachers unions. Democrats aren't going to deliver on this stuff. It takes people like us that have been consistent on this for decades, consistent on the drug war, consistent on civil asset forfeiture, consistent on police abuses to actually tackle these problems.
Yeah. I mean, even watching Minneapolis, because that's near where I'm at. So it's, this entire issue became, very, very close and near, physically. And just watching just the going back and forth and not wanting to, essentially reinvent the, policing departments, and even just within the council and the mayor, and the going back and forth, and essentially not. I mean, this is a chance for people to essentially oust the union leader. Yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to in remaking the police force is ousting the union leader and redoing the police force. And people don't want to. I mean, Bob Kroll is the worst human that you could possibly think of in policing, and they still don't want to get rid of him. It's just crazy to see how many people want to hold on to it.
What I would view as little stuff, police officers don't need to wear camouflage. They're not military officers. We don't need to be selling surplus military equipment to small town police departments. In the District of Columbia, where I live, there was just a proposal to increase the MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department budget, but not by as much as they've requested. And that was
farm.
That's a jurisdiction that is, about as blue as you can get, and they can't get police reform.
I'm a big fan of the Andy Griffith Show. And can you imagine Andy or Barney being given a tank from the federal government? What Sheriff Taylor's reaction to that would have been? I mean, he wouldn't even let Barney put the bullet in his gun, let alone let him use a tank or a bazooka.
I can go all his history teacher here a little bit. The police departments, at least as we know them in the Anglo-Saxon world, London created a police department. In the rest of the world, at least in the French world, police are just arms of the military, the gendarmerie and all of that. In our country and in England, it's specifically designed to be a civilian institution. When they were first created, the uniforms were designed to be as ridiculous as possible in order to remind police officers and remind the civilians they deal with that their job is de-escalation of conflict. Job of the military is escalating conflict. Job of the police is de-escalating conflict. And that ultimately they're responsible to the community and to the civilians. When it was first created, they did not want people putting on uniforms and thinking, that gave them license to be the law and order people around and be petty tyrants and everything. And I think there's a concern out there that maybe that's been lost along the way.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so I'm a radical libertarian, and you're generally known a little more as someone who's a little more pragmatic. To what level, if at all, do you think the party should sacrifice its principles for votes?
Well, I don't think we should. I don't think we need to at all. I think there's a big demand for us out there. I think there are a lot of issues that you can point out where 80% of Americans agree with us. And we've been talking about some of them here. And issues where the Democrats and Republicans are not going to offer solutions. So how I've heard it described is, I think there's a growing group of libertarians that are radical in their policy positions, but pragmatic in their strategic outlook, so to speak. So for instance, I ran for DC Attorney General to help us keep our ballot access in DC in 2018. And I picked a couple of issues, which my goal was to find issues where, 80% of voters would agree with us, but they were still principled libertarian positions. And that was clearing obstacles out of the way of new housing construction, which is a major issue in the District of Columbia. Housing prices are out of control. Holding the heads of the metro transit system accountable for safety violations, because right now their government agency would subsidize them with hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and they're literally killing people and not being held accountable for that. And reforms to the schooling system, where we've got a very vibrant school choice system in the District of Columbia, but it only applies up to elementary school, and expanding that to more schools and more grades. A lot of people love those issues. And the Democrats certainly weren't providing answers to them, and Republicans, such as they are in the District of Columbia, weren't providing answers to them. So I think there's a real way to connect with voters who don't always want to talk philosophy. They want to hear what electing you will do for their daily lives. And I think if we can hone in on that messaging, we certainly don't have to sacrifice principle at all in order to do that, in order to succeed. And of course, what issues work in the District of Columbia are different from the issues that'll work in different places. So I'd like to create a bank of information from the national party, so when candidates decide that they want to run for office, they can pull ready-made stats, ready-made factoids, ready-made talking points on whatever issues they want to emphasize in their jurisdiction. And that's something the national party can do to help out with. Not telling people what to run on, not telling people what to say, but if you want help with some messaging or stuff, we can do that.
As we sit here right now, do you have any advice for those candidates? Because there is such a variety. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach at all. Is there any sort of maybe one-size-fits-all approach in advice that you can give those candidates running on the local levels?
Libertarians tend to run for one office higher than the one they should be running for. So, even before you decide to run, think about that question, because there's a lot of people who decide to run for Congress who could actually do a pretty good job running for state legislature, or people who decide they want to run for mayor, but could probably get elected at city council, and so forth. So, think about that. And, we got a lot of great talent at the national party in Kara Schultz and Apollo Pizzell and a lot of other experts that can help you with your messaging and your branding and training and finding good talent for your campaign. Lots of good tips on door knocking. How many doors do you need to knock to get one vote? How many phones do you need to call to get one vote? It's not quite a science, but it's getting a lot more scientific than it used to be. And something I really want National to invest more in is data tools, to be able to deploy those resources optimally and help provide information to affiliates and to candidates to help them do what they need to do. We're behind the Democrats and Republicans on the use of data tools. And, for all the tech talent we have in the libertarian community, I'm personally offended by that, and I want to catch up as fast as possible.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, there is a lot of talent in the libertarian community. I see it every day between things as simple as memes. I don't know if there's a podcast per capita count, but
yeah, I've been since I won, I've been memed a couple times. It's been interesting. I haven't had that happen before. So.
You've arrived when you're in a meme.
Yeah.
Or hated, I guess. I guess it's one or the other, but you've still arrived one way or the other.
They've been nice ones so far. There's this photo of me being interviewed on MTV when I was 16 years old.
Oh, I saw that.
And so there've been speech bubbles put on that of what I'm saying to MTV.
Oh.
So, yeah.
What were you saying?
I was at what I was actually saying, it was an anti-curfew protest that we helped organize in San Diego, and MTV came out and covered it. It was my first media appearance back in 1997, and but no, there's been some very creative stuff, like me predicting things that will happen in the future, or opining on boy bands and tips, which were all the rage at that time. And no, we got some very creative people on Facebook and Twitter. I hope we can get them off their computers and out there door knocking and gathering signatures and phone banking for our candidates too.
Yeah.
Joe, what specifically? Let's go back to, you were 16 when you were on that MTV appearance?
Yeah.
You said? Let's go back like around that time and maybe even what brought you specifically into libertarianism? When did you actually start identifying as a libertarian, and why?
Yeah. So we have these neighbors across the street from us, the Johnsons, this elderly couple growing up, and they were nice people, retirees, everybody's babysitters, kind of the people who've been in the community for a while, and African-American retiree couple. And one day they had to move. Like, they didn't want to move, they had to move. And I don't even remember how old I was. I was certainly like probably 7 or 8 or 9 years old. And what had happened was government wanted to build an expressway on-ramp and needed to seize their house to grade the land down into it. And so they had to leave. And, I remember them saying their sad goodbyes, and the kids, I mean, we didn't understand what was happening. So they had to move. And then the powers that be changed the highway project. And so they didn't need the house after all. They demolished it, but they didn't need it. So I looked on Google Maps recently. It's actually still an empty lot today in that neighborhood. It's all for nothing. And I was really young, but at first I remember now, even to this day, thinking, man, the people that made this decision don't seem to know what they're doing. And that kind of distrust there's a lot of Americans who kind of implicitly trust whatever government does, fewer and fewer each year, thankfully. But I had that taken out of me pretty young, and I came across the Libertarian Party at the San Diego County Fair at some point. I didn't really pay much attention, but I remember encountering it, and by 96, and I would have been 15 or so. I mean, I was a true believer. I handed out stuff for, created a little chapter of Youth for Brown Jorgensen, and handed out pamphlets door to door on Harry Brown and Joe Jorgensen. So it's kind of a blast from the past to see Joe her presidential nominee this year, because when I was 15, I was handing out lit for her. And then San Diego had at the time, probably still does, has a very active chapter of libertarians engaged in public policy. We're being invited on TV to debate government officials on some of their nutty plans, like subsidies for the football team and subsidies for the baseball stadium and subsidies for the convention center expansion. And we helped push back on a lot of those. And then San Diego passed a curfew law, and a bunch of us got all of our friends together to protest it. An organization we put together called Libertarian Rock. So, 100 teenagers out past curfew, protesting the curfew on street corners. And we managed to get a First Amendment exception added to the law. We wanted to repeal the law. We weren't able to get it repealed, but we did get a First Amendment exception added. So if you were exercising your First Amendment rights, you could be out after curfew. So we handed out all these stickers that said repeal the curfew. Because if you were wearing the repeal the curfew sticker, you were after curfew. So that was a big one. So that's how I spent my teenage years. I was a rabble rouser. So.
That's good. That's good. You should be in your teenage years, and it's always interesting to me to hear how people came to liberty. I came through it really from the right side of things. It was right out of 9/11. I felt very helpless. I think like a lot of Americans did. Wanted to know what to do on behalf of mainly my Muslim friends, because I knew they were going to be coming under attack. I discovered Lou Rockwell. Years later, I stumbled into Alex Jones, really fell over into the conspiracy world. And that leads to my next question. I don't see it quite as much because so many conspiracies now have fallen over to the QAnons and into that area of things, but you still see it within libertarianism. the distrust of the masks. And of course, I understand, the mandates, but there are libertarians out there who aren't wearing masks as some sort of a political statement. What do you think about that influence of conspiracy theories within the Libertarian Party? Is it healthy, or should we do more to educate our own ilk to do away with some of that thinking?
Yeah.
I'm not very much of a conspiracy theorist because I've dealt enough with government. I live in Washington, D.C. for 15 years. If it's ever a choice between stupidity or incompetence, it's usually stupidity. Stupidity or some evil master plan. It's usually just stupidity and incompetence that are that are the explanation behind things. So, I'm enough of a nerd that I went to Dealey Plaza in Dallas with a ruler to see, what's the explanation here? Could somebody have fired from the sewer grate? Could somebody have fired from the grassy knoll and everything? And and it's stuff like that. So I actually think Lee Harvey Oswald did it alone, based on my firsthand research that I've done into this. But I've been on planes. I know the Earth is round, all that stuff. I personally do wear masks. I think it's not so much for myself, but if I am sick, it helps contain it. When my dad was dying of cancer, every day I visited him, I had to wear a mask for the same reason. And there's certainly perfectly good science on that. But that's a decision I guess we all have to make for ourselves, and I hope people would make it independent of political statements. I mean, don't do something because Donald Trump is doing it or not doing it. Do it because you want to do it based on your own research and your own information.
So I shouldn't be mainlining bleach right now?
Yeah, no, swallowing UV lights or stuff like that.
Right.
So, who are some of your favorite libertarian thinkers or writers?
I'm a Harry Brown guy.
Okay.
His book, Why Government Doesn't Work, I hand out copies of it still. They're getting harder and harder to find. So if you got a bunch of copies somewhere, send them to me. I'll take them. And if you've not read the book, how it's organized is by issue. So there's a chapter on healthcare, a chapter on defense, chapter on public safety, etc. And he just lays it out factually, the history behind how we got to where we are, how government interventions got us to the problems that we have today, and mixed in with data and facts, and everything's footnoted. And that really appeals to me because I'm a data and a facts guy.
Yep, I know the feeling.
There are other, that's not everybody's cup of tea. There are some people who want, the Fountainhead or the Atlas Shrugged, the exposition and the grand battles and everything. And, there's people who love that stuff. And that works for some people. And then there's some people that, want the first principles and the philosophy. And there's certainly a lot of choices for that kind of stuff as well. And, I don't think there's a wrong answer or right answer. Just as there's book learners and video learners and audio learners, people are going to come across it different ways. But whenever someone new joins the party and stops by DC, because if you're running for office as a libertarian, you got to stop by DC. I hand them a copy of Why Government Doesn't Work, because I really do appreciate that book, especially the healthcare chapter, which he wrote that in 1995, and he laid out where he thought healthcare policy was going to go in the future. And man, did he call it and where it's gone. And, his last line I remember saying is like, there's going to be a war on fatty foods and soft drinks and all that stuff. And I remember reading that in 95, 96 and thinking, well, that's never going to happen. That's crazy talk. And here we are today with that kind of stuff, with soda taxes and who knows where next.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah. I'm going to definitely have to check that out. That is one that I have not read.
Why Government Doesn't
Work? I actually haven't either. So that's all three of us. Got to check it out. So can you give us your best pitch for the Jorgensen-Cohen campaign? Like, I'm already supporting them, but I just mean for our viewers here.
Well, there's the negative pitch, which so many people want to vote against Trump and against Biden, and this is how you get to do both. You get to vote for Joe Jorgensen and vote against Trump and vote against Biden. So, that seems to get a lot of people. I know both Joe and Spike pretty well. They're good people. They want to do good things. And, 100 days into a Jorgensen-Cohen administration, the drug war will be ended. Nonviolent drug offenders will be released. Civil asset forfeiture will be ended. And whatever terrible things the government is doing that we may not even know about, that stuff will be stopped in its tracks. So that's very exciting. And, I'm going to cast certainly my vote for them. I hope everybody else does too. Even if you don't think that they're going to be able to push it over the line this November, every vote for Jorgensen-Cohen, there's no mistaking what you stand for in that. So when they throw the vote totals up on the screen for the November election and they tell people, this many for Biden and this many for Trump and this many for Jorgensen, it's going to be no secret what all of those votes for Jorgensen-Cohen mean. And, if they don't win, hopefully whoever's the next president will recognize that many people don't want them to do all the crazy stuff that they want to do.
Right.
And that there's certainly no better signal that you can send. I mean, if you're voting for Trump to stop Biden, or you're voting for Biden to stop Trump, they're not going to see it that way. They're going to see that as a mandate for all the crazy things that they want to do, all the government interventions that they want to do, all the new programs and the new spending and the new taxes and all of that. But there's no mistaking what a vote for Jorgensen stands for. So please vote for Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen, who will be on the ballot as the only people on the ballot other than the other two parties in all 50 states plus the District of Columbia.
Vote for them and vote for Spike, even if he's not wearing a shirt. I just want to interject real quick. There is a guy over in the chat, and he says there's way too much clothing in this Zoom wannabe meeting. I'm not real sure what the last part means, but he apparently wants us all to get naked here. And I just want to remind this fella, this is a family-friendly show. Now, that's not to say we can't do an after hours where we get naked, I suppose, but there's going to have to be charged for that. I will put up my
There are
PayPal
so many
link.
websites where you can have that. I mean,
Right. I spend a lot of time and money on those sites. So there you go.
no, I'm a tax lawyer in the District of Columbia. I go and testify all over the place. This is the uniform. I am wearing a colored shirt today because I knew I'd be on Fakertarians, so I got to loosen up a little bit there. But people, Spike may be one thing, but people expect the chair to be, putting the best foot forward, and I'll save the crazy stuff for the policies we get enacted. But I can do it with a smile and a nice suit and tie.
See, that's my problem, Joe. I can't stand sleeves, and John can't either. I always say
we're only 50% wearing sleeves in this group here. So,
well, yeah, because sleeves are a social construct, and I think it's just the best way to really, thumb your nose at the establishment by taking off those sleeves. It's my own personal protest.
Let's see. I was going to ask something and I forget what it was.
Oh gosh.
I'm good at doing that. That is my number one talent on this podcast.
Remember, libertarians love weed. Of course we do.
Well, while you guys are thinking of a question, I just want to point out this nice little pin that I'm wearing, which is a lifetime member pin. We do not get government money as the Libertarian Party. The other two parties, of course, get funding to put on their conventions. Even though they're not putting on conventions this year, they get funding to do their general election campaigns. We don't. Everything we get is contributions that people make all over the place. So go to lp.org/donate, and if you make a $1,500 donation, you'll be a member for lifetime. Oh, and there's the link there, and you get one of these pins here. And it's actually one of my duties to personally put pins on people who've got lifetime membership. So if you want to humiliate me and make me do that for you, it's very, very cheap.
Joe, you reminded me, I've been a registered libertarian 25 years, probably something close to that.
Yeah.
And I recently plunked down the $25 to join the party. Took me a long time, but I thought, you know what? There's a lot of problems within this party and I want to be active and I want to be a part of this and help address what I see as those problems.
Yeah.
What do you say to others who are out there? And I hear this a lot. I'd like to join, but I'm just hesitant. I don't want to spend that money. I'm not going to make a difference even if I do. What's your pitch to those individuals who are on the fence of actually joining officially?
So there's, I got two answers there, because it's kind of two groups of people where I hear that kind of discussion or that kind of question. One group is the people who are in the party and are, dissatisfied with the direction or the progress and are like, should I stay? And my answer to that is always never threaten to leave, threaten to stay. And we libertarians can do a lot better at that. Whenever I'm debating public policy or trying to achieve something in a state legislature, or I'm negotiating with other lobbyists or legislators, I always make sure I'm the last one at the negotiating table. Never be the first to walk out of the room, because then it just keeps happening without you, and things get worse. So don't threaten to leave, threaten to stay. There's a lot of us working hard to build the party and make it something that everybody can be proud to be a member of. And we could use the help, we could use the members, we can use the money. And of course, it's all going for a good and important cause. For the people that haven't yet made the jump yet, tell me what it would take. I view it as part of my job to make it. I'm not out to get members by begging people one at a time, although I'm not above that. Mainly, I want to build a party that is having successes, that is electing people, that is achieving great things in advancing public policy in a libertarian direction, is making sure people have choices on the ballot. And I want to make it something people are proud to join and be members of. Without us, the only choice on the ballot this November would be Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And even if it's not a big thing for you, if you think Americans deserve more choices than that, even one more choice, Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen, consider joining and helping us do that, because it's not cheap in order to achieve that. So I hope people will help us do what we need to do, because it's only done thanks to the generosity and hard work of so many people. And I'm going to work very hard to make sure that every dollar is scrutinized and we spend it well. We're very efficient in what we do, in terms of the votes per dollar and all the other different metrics. And I'm going to be scrutinizing all of these expenses going forward as chair to make sure that we're investing those dollars wisely and achieving an impact with them.
We had another question too about the Department of Homeland Security. I know we kind of talked a little bit up front about, what's going on with all that, but what about the specific libertarians who cheer the DH actions in those protests? I see that. We all see that. Maybe it's fringe. Maybe it's just amplified because it's on the old Twizzler deck or what have you. But what word do we have for them? It seems like they're trying to have it both ways. They want to see their enemies attacked while at the same time trying to maintain libertarian bona fides.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-leftist. I'm not anti-rightist. I'm pro-libertarian. And I hope a lot of people can join me in that. And it's easy to fall into the blue team, red team dynamic because it surrounds us so frequently among our non-libertarian friends. This election is shaping up to be an anti-election. Nobody's really for Joe Biden. It's just people that are against Donald Trump. And increasingly, there doesn't even seem to be people that are for Donald Trump. It's just the people that are against Joe Biden and the Democrats. So, we can play into that. I think it's a losing battle for us because the people that hate Trump as their sole motivation and the people that hate Biden as their sole motivation, they've pretty much made up their mind. But the vast majority of Americans are not anti-anybody. They just want the country to succeed. They want to be able to live their lives. They want the economy to be working. They want, they want good things for them and their children and their neighbors and their families. And we can play into that. And the way we do that is by offering solutions and talking about how we care about these things too. And what we offer is the best way to achieve that.
Awesome. We do have a question from somebody in the live stream chat. If my local chapter of the LP is hostile toward LGBT people, is there a way to get involved nationally as a member?
Yeah, actually, in most states, national membership and state membership of the Libertarian Party are separate. So you can be a state member and not be a national member, or vice versa, and many people do. Of course, I urge everybody to be both national and state members, because we all are working in concert on so many things. But if for whatever reason you don't want to be member of one, you can still be a member of the other. And then there's a excellent umbrella organization called Outright Libertarians for gender and sexual minorities. And that's a nationwide umbrella organization where you can connect with folks. And I'm actually going to be looking as chair to help foster a lot more affinity organizations so that people can connect in other ways other than just factional or caucus lines. But so, doctors that are libertarians connecting with each other, lawyers that are libertarians connecting with each other, moms and dads who are libertarians connecting with each other, libertarian youth. There's a lot of different cross avenues where people can relate to each other and help build affinity groups. Because we libertarians are, I don't want to speak for everybody, but at least for myself, growing up as a libertarian, it felt kind of lonely. There are a lot of, we know a lot of Democrats and Republicans, and we're always kind of, a lot of libertarians grow up as the lone libertarian in their social group, or the lone libertarian on their college campus or in their family and so forth. So, we're looking for ways to connect with each other, because humans are social creatures, and that's true for libertarians too. It's not always the case, as the saying goes, that libertarians are fiscally conservative and socially awkward. We like hanging out with people. So, I'm hoping to create some more affinity groups to play into that and help people connect. But some of them already exist, like Outright.
Joe, I followed you peripherally for a number of years, and
oh gosh,
I guess I'm going to I'm going to say I haven't been fully like I just
you
haven't
get all the boring history posts and things.
No, I was going to say I haven't fully followed all of your policy views, but sitting here hearing from you today, I have to say I think the delegates made a fantastic pick.
Yes.
Because I think you really are a bridge of a human being to kind of help bring all of these issues together and really unify. I'm very impressed.
Keep talking. I like where this is going.
Hey, I don't want to turn it into a love fest either. But, because I was going to say to you, this has been such a good conversation. I think if there are some heated moments going forward in the party or whatever, John, if it's all right with you, I'd like to offer Joe here kind of a standing invitation to come on the show
absolutely.
every now and again and address some of those issues. Joe, if you'd like to do that.
Whenever I'd like to.
I keep saying my job is, and I keep giving different answers to it, but another one of my
it's a lot of jobs.
Yeah. The people don't necessarily know this, but the chair is the CEO of the party. In a lot of other organizations, the board chair is just that, the chair of the board, and there's a separate person who's the CEO of the entity or the organization. But the way the delegates have structured it for the Libertarian Party, I'm the CEO of the national organization as well as chair of the board. So it's a lot of different responsibilities in one hat, and I take all that very seriously. My job is to facilitate decisions on the board, and both of those words are important: facilitate and decisions. Facilitate means, my job is to find where the consensus is and help build it and push it forward. Because it doesn't do anybody any favors to ram stuff through the national committee 8-7 or 9, by some narrow margin, because that's not lasting, that's not permanent. That gets ill feeling. So to the extent that consensus can be built, that's better. And then decisions is important too, because we need to be moving in a direction towards achieving things and impact. If all we're doing is talking and spinning our wheels and not really advancing everything, then kind of what's the point? I'm not in this to become an expert on Robert's rules and deploy it as a weapon at every meeting. I'm not in this because I view myself as the provider of libertarian truth. We got every other libertarian can be that and wants to be that.
Oh yeah.
Our candidates can tell people what libertarian solutions are. My job is to help facilitate decisions, and that's where I want to be sticking with my knitting and focusing on. And so I've been chair of the bylaws committee before, which is about as fun a task as it sounds. But we were able to present a lot of bylaws proposals to the last two conventions and pass most of them. And a lot of that comes down to something I talked about earlier, which is being able to listen and making sure people understand that they're heard and have an opportunity to provide input. But also it's a matter of finding that consensus, because there's a lot of proposals that came up that we could have passed 6-4 or 7-3 through the committee, but I kept working at it to make sure that we could get it 10-0 or at minimum 9-1, because that's the kind of stuff that would get passed unanimously on the floor or passed overwhelmingly on the floor.
Yeah.
Bring some 5-4 proposal or 6-3 proposal to the floor, they're not going to pass it. And so it's the same true with stuff in the national committee. If you can get something through the national committee 15-2 or 14-3, that's going to be lasting. People are going to rally around that. If you ramp the convention stuff, I mean, that was all passed on close votes, and we saw how divisive that became. And that's an unfortunate thing that happened at the national committee, because we basically passed the buck on, rather than solving the problem in our national committee, we kind of dumped it on the delegates to figure out a solution for. And I'd like to avoid that as much as possible and work on consensus at the board.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we have anything else, Jeremy? What do you think?
I think that pretty much wraps up everything.
So, Joe, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up for the day?
Well, in the pre, we were talking about where everybody is right now. So you got Minnesota and Florida, and then I'm sorry, that's only two of you. I forgot somebody.
Brian?
Oh, me. I'm from Kansas.
You're in Kansas.
I could apologize for that, but I guess I don't have to.
Well, Brian, you said you just kind of crossed and contributed, and I guess question for John and Jeremy is, what could the Libertarian Party be doing better? What could we be doing more of or less of? And then what do you think is what it takes to get members and grow and get more votes?
I think for me, definitely appealing to, generally marginalized communities, GSM, LGBT communities, BIPOC communities, I think really would help. I myself am gay, and it's really hard to talk to my friends about my political positions.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get them to understand that, yes, the Libertarian Party is generally, a socially, progressive party. And, a lot of times it's just seen as Republicans who smoke weed. That's all they think of, or, it just appeals to, white, straight, old cis men. Like that's the kind of feeling that, a lot of my friends get, and it's hard to kind of talk to them about that. So I think, just a little bit more general, appeal just through, I don't want to say marketing, but, to me be able to pull up, something and show this is where the party stands. This is what the party believes in. This is what the party pushes for, and make sure that's, easily visible. I think that would be great to see.
I'm hoping my husband, Ethan, can be a bit of a goodwill ambassador for some of that. While I'm busy, arguing about bylaws and budgets and stuff, he can remind people that there is a home for people. And after the 2016 election, I just saw a study somebody did. I mean, there's just been a lot of youth LGBT suicide and GSM people really frightened by the political direction and everything. And I get a lot of gay and sexual minorities, gender and sexual minorities are kind of have all their chips in with the Democratic Party, but the Democrats are Johnny-come-latelys to a lot of our issues. I mean, it's in my recent. I was still alive. I remember when Democrats were against gay marriage. I remember when Democrats were against or for DOMA and against gays serving in the military and all of that. So, I try to remind people, Democrats are taking your votes for granted. Libertarians certainly aren't. We need every vote we can get. And I hope, I don't know to what extent being an openly gay chair of a national political party can help remind people that we're open to everybody and we're eager to chart that direction. But I'm here, and I've already gotten a very touching message from somebody. I don't know whether it's true or not, but if it's true, it's incredibly touching and emotional. Saying, it's a gay person in one of those states where there's not a lot of openly gay people, or at least not it's not as welcome, and just appreciating the example of a gay person being chair of the Libertarian Party for their own personal struggle. And I don't know if I can do anything more to help with that kind of stuff, but
it is nice.
People pay attention to us, and if you're fighting on Facebook and you're fighting on Twitter and you're being nasty to people and you're not being welcoming to folks, people are watching on that kind of stuff. So that's why I try not to do that kind of stuff. And I welcome all the people outside of the Fakertarians group, or I guess you have to do that to be in the group, the discussion group. But outside of that, let's be as understanding and welcoming and empathetic as we can be.
Yeah. And Joe, you certainly seem very open. Again, thank you for the conversation. If anyone wants to reach out to you, they have any questions, how can they get in contact with you? chair@lp.org is my new email address. I think it still says, it still pops up as Nicholas Sarwark for a lot of people. So we'll see how we get our IT people on that and changing that. But I've also got a Facebook group where I post updates on what the party's up to. And then I'm not that hard to get a hold of. There was some stuff in the campaign about ooh, where am I? And I'm posting stuff every day, and I'm working like hell to get stuff going. I mean, this weekend, and aside from this hour, I've been basically nonstop helping out with our ballot access drives. Democrats and Republicans have automatically put themselves on the ballot, but we have to work for it. So we got ballot drives going on in 14 states right now to finish it up, and so there's a lot of focus there. So if you'd love to help out with that, we need it.
Great.
Well, Joe, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you. And again, the invitation is open. We'll maybe have a regular discussion. It's great to see you. Great to really meet you here in this format. Thank you, and good luck on your journey as our chair.
And keep up the good work, you guys.
Thank you.
Now. All right, I guess that wraps up this edition of the Fakertarians on this Saturday, July 25th, 2020. Special thanks, Joe-Bishop Henchman, chair, recently elected, of the Libertarian Party. Good night, everybody.
Good night.